Welcome back to StopTheBadges Weekly Nightly News. I'm Porter Vaughn, and today we continue in our review of our presidential candidates for 2016. Today we'll be taking a look at former Secretary of State, U.S. Senator, and also former First Lady through Bill Clinton's term. I guess we should start off with the positive. She has a fair outline economically as far as our energy resources go. She does seem to, again, broad outlines as far as we go at this point. Everybody's just kind of deciding where they want to stand on the major side of the major issues. They haven't really formulated, I guess, all their ideas yet, but her first part for the economy and energy is she wants to increase solar panels. Solar panels will be her big push. 700,000, I believe she calls for, in her first term, built across the United States. Of course, we could also do, the wind turbines, the wind catchers, and we could continue putting hydraulic turbines in dams. So there's a lot of way to go for clean renewable energy. As long as we're not talking about nuclear energy as clean and renewable, then we're headed up. The second part to her plan, however, is she doesn't want to call back or cut back on any reductions to carbon emission reductions. The only thing I can think that would lead to would be like a cap and trade or a carbon tax. So essentially it would still be the possibility of a direct tax on us as well, but on businesses based upon their carbon emissions and what is considered their polluting and their contribution to climate change. So the fact that it's a climate change platform, I'm not too fond of, because again, I don't know what we're trying to change in the climate. I know what people think we're trying to change, but heating and cooling, ice ages, warmer periods, cooling periods, that's all natural here on Earth. And it has been for several thousand years, so I don't see why we want to start dumping aluminum in the atmosphere and aerosol canisters and use nuclear energy to try to create an outdoor air conditioning device where we just control the planet's temperature all the time, because that doesn't seem like the smartest play we could make. So I do appreciate the fact that she's trying to take us to solar energy and at least away from, hopefully nuclear energy as well, but our old forms of energy. We're relying on foreign oils, of course, coal plants, and give us a chance at sustainability, becoming self-sufficient. Maybe that could even be a small revenue source for our government. If we wanted to do away with the IRS tax and we had solar panels providing power, but we each paid $10 a month to access our solar panels, our community's solar panels, that would be a fund that could be used to fix up the streets, to fund the schools locally when they didn't have enough money. That could be something that would give us a future and kind of keep the money in our local communities as well. But moving on from energy, we can go into gun control. She has quite a few ideas for gun control and is very proud of the fact that in the past she has always maintained her gun control stance as far as trying to close for what is considered loopholes, but really what is just the remaining free trade and unregistered sale of firearms remaining in this country at gun shows or online, Craigslist. Also wants to further restrict who can own a gun based not just upon, say, domestic violence or abusive charges, but also criminal pasts, mental illnesses, if they've ever been involuntarily committed to an outpatient treatment facility, even stalkers, if you're a stalker. And the problem is not here that I'm, advocating for the right of stalkers to own firearms, because that's, a stalker owning a firearm shouldn't be the issue. If there's a stalker that goes too far with a firearm, that's that incident. I'm just saying somebody who's ever been accused of stalking doesn't mean that they are a stalker and completely, incapable of responsibly owning a firearm. The same goes with anybody who's ever committed a crime, a minor offense, a misdemeanor. And then mental illness just opens a whole nother closet of Pandora's boxes, because, well, what if your father was schizophrenic? And we feel that that's just it's too likely that you might develop some schizophrenic tendencies or natures or habits, so we're going to go ahead and take away your gun rights. That's a slippery slope, and it always has been. Gun control is not the answer. She likes to point out the shootings that have taken place. The problem with this here is the shootings take place in movie theaters, in schools, in airports, behind security checkpoints, on bases behind security checkpoints. It's where everyone else has no weapon, as I've always said. It's much easier to walk into a place full of unarmed people and shoot them than it is to walk into a place full of armed people and shoot them, especially in mass. You would not have a plus 25 KD spread at Sandy Hook if the teachers had their firearms. It just wouldn't happen. Even if 12 teachers had guns, one of them might be a decent enough shot to get to you before you kill another 25 kids. If we're going to go ahead and, use the Sandy Hook as the example, which I don't really like it anyways, but that's a whole nother issue. So, creating more disarmament zones, more increased regulation on gun sales, more restrictions on gun owning eligibility is not necessarily the answer for decreased shootings, regardless of whether or not 33,000 people die from gun violence crimes a year. She also loved to point that out. And of course she wants to support the ban on assault weapons. Just across the board, as far as gun control goes, she's ready to make it happen. She's ready to confiscate guns, ready to register guns, ready to restrict the sale and trade of guns. And inevitably we will not have any guns left, and her and her posse of governmental criminals will have them all. So, moving on past gun control, other military forces or border patrol or immigration, but our national security in general. And it's really not, again, it's really not clear which way she wants to stand here. She does say that she will stand up to Putin. She will make Russia back down. She'll get Europe more independent for Russian oil, and will fight ISIS, we'll defeat ISIS, we'll go over there and we'll train the Iraqis. But that is the most direct approach she's had on any one of the issues so far, is to outright say that we will train Iraqi forces, we will make them so they can defeat ISIS, we will, and not just stop there, but Libya, Syria will bring stability back to those regions. So she does have a plan to engage at least Russia through Ukraine, as well as ISIS through Iraq, and of course Libya and Syria, and who knows where else we might go from there. So big expansion on our occupation military front, and probably troop dedication, and of course fund dedications to drones, missiles, carriers, fleets, everything. And then, boots on the ground. But on the other issues, she hasn't obviously made it quite as direct, and she stayed off of several things. It seems intentionally. Her site is full of more popular issues. lesbian and gay rights, disability rights, veterans' rights, early childhood education, elementary schoolers, school funding, college funding, and healthcare, and less about foreign policy, wars, border. She just kind of brushes on those very lightly with broad strokes. So she's definitely seemingly playing a popularity campaign here, more so than a policy campaign, as far as I'm able to see. But moving on into healthcare, speaking of which, she does say that she will continue to defend Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and strengthen it, elaborate on it, make it better, reduce the out-of-pocket costs, the high co-pays that are present, which she states have more than doubled over the past 10 years, since 2003 to 2013. Of course they have. Now insurance is mandatory, and we're trying to advertise it at a low rate, and if you want to have a low insurance rate, you're going to have a high deductible, just like with your car or your house, and now your pills. So you're going to have out-of-pocket costs, and she wants to make that more appealing, and thinks that's the solution, is pull back on that, rather than pull back on the Affordable Care Act and declare the unconstitutionalness of it by forcing it upon every citizen. She'd rather call affordable health care a American right. So she's going to try to reinforce the idea that it's part of our society to have health care. It's life, liberty, property, health care. And it's right there. I wrote it on the Declaration. I just put a comma and I put health care, and then I moved the period over, and it works. It's beautiful. It now reads, "We the people, blah, 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 health care." It's, I don't know, it's perfect. So again, health care, not a big fan of Affordable Care Act, or the fact that she wants to expand that, make it stronger, try to legitimize it, and in exchange she will lower the out-of-pocket costs. Aside from that, not really an in-depth budget plan. She says she's working on it, that it's tied into her solar panels, and she outlines a lot of bullet points on her budget plan for the future. Create sustainable growth, create high-wage positions, fund energy projects and research projects and exploration projects. So basically a bunch of government funding dumped into the country to give people jobs. So the government will just hire a bunch of its citizens, and their wages will be put on the budget, the deficit budget, so our future debt, because our budget doesn't pay for itself. Our budget is a deficit. And in the future, it'll somehow balance out, work itself out. We'll grow as a country, we'll get better, stronger, richer, and that's all we need. Only we were that lucky. So not too detailed outline, just a bunch of bullet points that sound positive, and we kind of hope for the best on. And I guess we'll see as time comes closer, should she still be standing as a candidate, what her in-depth budget plan is going to be. But that's really all I'm going to go into for Hillary Clinton, is foreign policy, the health care. It's great that she's active in all these other issues, but I feel that those are the issues that kind of pull us away from what we need our president to be involved in, rather than what we, are curious to hear their opinion on from time to time, I guess. Which seems to be a trend that started with Obama, because I've never seen a president who took to a press conference after so many national tragedies or shootings and tried to say, if Trayvon Martin was my son, how would I feel? That just, it doesn't seem to be the place of a commander-in-chief for me. So that's all I have on Hillary Clinton. Not an ideal candidate for president, and wasn't really the ideal candidate for Secretary of State either, so I hope we don't move her up above that this time. And this is Stop the Badges Weekly Nightly News. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for watching.